This course is about the Agile methods and frameworks of Scrum and Extreme Programming, or XP. These are arguably the two most well-known of the Agile project management methodologies.
There's a lot more to learn about Scrum and XP beyond what we'll cover in this course. There could easily be an entire series about Scrum and XP methodologies. If, after this course, you're interested in learning more about Scrum, I encourage you to obtain Scrum certification. Scrum Master is the primary certification, or CSM. There are currently other certifications from the Scrum Alliance that you could also obtain, such as Certified Scrum Product Owner, Certified Scrum Developer, and Certified Scrum Professional.
There are also certifications for those who are Scrum coaches or trainers. Some of you may already hold a Scrum certification of some sort. It is common for an Agile practitioner to obtain a Scrum certification prior to seeking his or her Agile Certified Practitioner certification from the Project Management Institute. So with that in mind, we will give you a high-level tour through the concepts, terminology, structure, and other aspects about the Agile methodology and approach of Scrum. We will do the same for extreme programming, most commonly referred to as simply XP. Due to the popularity of Scrum, we will spend most of this course on Scrum, then spend the remaining time discussing XP. That way, if for some unforeseen reason you can't complete this course, you will have at least learned about the most common approach. For those seeking to gain foundational understanding of all the Agile project management methods, then learning first about the Scrum approach and terms is beneficial to learning about XP, because its wide influence and terminology is understood by most in the industry. Having that lexicon of terms will assist you in everyday work conversations or another conversation where Agile project management is being discussed. For example, at a project management conference, gathering, or maybe even a job interview. When we discuss XP, we will start with the overview of XP and its typical usage. From there, we'll explore the activities that comprise a typical XP lifecycle. We will also discuss the values as common threads and practices undertaken during the XP lifecycle. You will also need to know some of the roles involved in XP practices and the construct of the team, so we will cover that. We'll spend most of our XP conversation on XP practices. And these XP practices include, but are not limited to, concepts that may be intuitive from their name or your understanding of Agile project management and or the Agile Manifesto. XP practices such as small releases, which, as you may be able to guess, are the desire to push out smaller and more regular deployments to a test environment to gain visibility and to illustrate progress. This practice aligns closely to the Agile principles we discussed in another course and should be expected in most Agile project management methods. Other extreme programming practices aren't as straightforward, but you may have used them in other contexts, or you will recognize them once they are explained. One example of this is metaphor. You may be familiar with the terms metaphor and simile in writing or literature, but you may be unfamiliar with how they work in an Agile project management approach, such as XP. We will explain how the use of analogies assist in making descriptions and ideas more comprehensible to team members and stakeholders. There are also a couple of terms and practices that are more or less constructs found only in XP Agile project management. One example is pair programming. If the Agile projects you've worked on have not been in the software industry, I wouldn't expect such a practice to be commonplace in your enterprise. So, by extension, I wouldn't expect you to have even used XP Agile project management in such an organization. But at least some of the other practices we discuss will make sense and may be performed in your workplace. Now, on the other hand, some practices, such as pair programming, lend themselves primarily to the writing of code and other forms of software programming. Now, don't worry too much. Practices like pair programming are not difficult to comprehend, even if you have never worked on a software project or in a software project organization. There are about 12 practices in all that we plan to discuss here.
We'll give the same attention, if not more, to Scrum Agile project management. We'll start with a basic overview of the approach and its usage. We will discuss the theory behind Scrum based on the 3 pillars of adaptation, inspection, and transparency. After setting the foundation, we will discuss the common roles and responsibilities within Scrum, along with the definition of Scrum teams. From there, we will discuss the events that comprise the Scrum process and lifecycle. We will explain the various artifacts used in the Scrum process. Then, we will be done. Or, at least I think we'll be done. I don't know. I guess that all depends on what we consider done. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here, but as you might be able to guess, the last concept we'll talk about is the definition of done. So, when is done truly done? This is a very important thing to know because it can cause a lot of issues if done is interpreted differently by different people. Once that is discussed, then yes, we will be done with our coverage of Scrum. And then we can move on to our coverage of XP, which I've already laid out for you. Once we have completed covering the material, we'll wrap up this course with a quick review of the Agile methods of Scrum and XP. In another course, we will cover other lesser-known Agile project management approaches. Now that you have a good idea of what lays ahead, let's begin. Up first, Scrum.